Welcome back to the garage. In this video, we're going to be installing and testing out a dash camera on one of the motorcycles. And here's the dash cam in question. I've been wanting to put a dash cam on a motorcycle for quite some time, basically since my Tacoma met its demise, and I realized the absolute importance of having a dash cam to, at the very worst, prove who's at fault in a wreck, and more secondarily, just capturing crazy things out on the road and being able to share that. Getting a dash cam on a motorcycle is even more important because you're so much more exposed than you are in a car, and having that evidence, if you ever need it, is paramount. So the people from Vantrue, which is the maker of this dash cam, reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to review one of their new motorcycle-specific dash cams. Now, I jumped on this opportunity because it is something I was already wanting to do, and that's something I really stay true to. When I get asked to review a product, it's usually only because it's a product that I actually want to use. I've actually been interested in purchasing myself, so sure, I'll take a chance at trying it out and seeing how it works. So that's how I've ended up with the Vantrue F1 motorcycle dash cam. You can see on the box, it comes with two cameras, a forward-facing and a rearward-facing. Looks like it also comes with a remote and this kind of control center, which I assume is where the video is being captured and stored. So, very cool looking package, very nicely put together box. Very nicely packaged, I will say. So we have accessories box. This looks like the main storage module, and looks like some extra cables here. And here are the cameras themselves. I can tell straight away that these have some nice build quality feel to them. They're metal. They're cool to the touch. They're not plastic and kind of fragile feeling. These actually feel pretty sturdy. Looks like they have a variable mount with a 3M sticky backing to them. Looks like a 4-pin connector with a screw attachment. The second camera. Here is the remote. Looks like it's got a power on off. And then a ability to maybe start recording or take a picture. And it has some sort of Wi-Fi and microphone capability. Let's see what's in this box. Looks like this is the main harness, ground, a positive, and then accessory wire. It's a fused connection, which is good. It looks like here's a handlebar mount for the camera, if you wanted to go that route. I won't be doing that on this particular bike, but it's good to know you've got that option available. And the next box here, this is the main module. Looks like that's your SD card slot. I'm not actually sure if it came with an SD card. I'll have to check that out. And this looks like an extension lead for the cameras if you needed a longer extension than we've got here, which I can already tell you we will definitely need that. And then one last box here. We've got some cable ties, quite a few cable ties, which is nice. Got some tools in here, and there's something else back in there. It might just be a bag. Nope. Looks like we've got some more 3M adhesive strips if you want to change the location a few times. So cool. It's good to always have some extras just in case you need to try a few different positions of the camera. Does not look like an SD card is included. That's unfortunate. And thankfully it does come with a small user manual, which you can see some just general guidelines on how to set it up. Looks like they do have a mobile app that you can link up to your phone to see a live feed of the camera and to install updates. I've got it for Apple and Android. Looks like if you're doing front and rear recording, which I will be, the maximum resolution is 2160p by 180p at 30 frames per second, which is plenty good for a dash camera. So unfortunately, it does not look like this has a built-in hard drive, so you do have to go buy a micro SD card that has at least 32 gigabytes of storage and is a U3 class 10. So yeah, I guess I'll have to go out and get one of those before I can proceed any further. Alright, so that is everything in the box. Definitely a good looking kit. I think I have everything I need. I did go out and get a 256 gigabyte SD card, so I'm ready to rock as soon as I get this installed. I'm going to install the system on my 2007 BMW R1200 RT. This is a bike I'm going to be taking a trip with in about a month, so it'll be very useful to have this camera system rigged up in case anything happens during that trip. It's just a good idea to have an extra bit of insurance. So I plan on mounting the front camera probably under here somewhere, and then the rear camera, see if I can't find a way to mount it to one of these, probably right here if I can get it to mount up properly there. And then the actual control module, I'm gonna have to find a place in this area, and the remote, I'm gonna mount it to here. What I don't want to do is mount it to somewhere that's part of a piece that needs to be removed with any sort of frequency. On these bikes, the fairings have to come off quite a bit if you need to do an oil change or just inspect something. So I don't want to mount anything to a fairing that has to come off frequently. Just a tip to keep in mind. So I'm going to get started tearing off all the fairings and mounting the system up, and we will revisit once it is installed. Alright, I think I have it all installed. Obviously I had to pull off all the fairings on this bike, and that really comes down to how professional you want the installation to look. I mean, you can always string wires on the outside of the bodywork. I personally could not stand that. So really, if you have a full fairied bike, you do have to pull the fairings off and kind of tie all the wires up against the frame with zip ties or similar, just to get it out of the way, make it look like nothing happened at all. So to begin with, I put the front camera down here below the grill and mounted it right there. By default, the camera's upside down, but you just loosen the screw here and you can rotate it 180 degrees, and then it'll be right side up. Let's come back to the back here. You can see that I've mounted the rear camera right there. Again, had to rotate the camera 180 degrees so it's right way up. But I use the 3M sticky tape on both. That's really all you need. They're not very heavy, and they'll be structurally sound there. And I routed that wire up underneath this plastic fairing panel, so it's up and out of the way. If you weren't looking for it, you'd never even see that it was there. So figuring out where to put the camera is easy enough, but the not so easy part is figuring out where to put the remote control. I decided that the best place to put the remote control was up here by the key, and just mount it on this triple clamp area, and it's securely mounted with the double-sided tape. I couldn't find a good place to put it because honestly, I think the controller, they've designed it upside down. The wire comes out the wrong side. The buttons, the right way up for the buttons is this way. So you have to have it so the wire comes out the top, and no matter where you mount it, the wire is always going to be awkwardly coming out the top. So I just decided to put it down here so it would look at least less intrusive going around down here. I made sure I have enough slack in there so you can turn it lock to lock and it doesn't bind or anything like that, doesn't get stretched. So that's good. And then from there, figuring out the routing of all of the wires became a little bit easier. Once you figure out where you want to put the cameras, where you want to put the remote, then you can attach the extension wires and kind of see where's the most localized place to put the kind of receiver module and how to hook up the wires to the battery. So before I get to the receiver module, let's talk about the wires that actually power this thing on. So if you remember back to the beginning of the video, you have this pigtail. It's a fused system. You can see it comes all the way back here. It's a pretty long pigtail, but basically I've routed it down here and I put the obvious connections on the battery. You have your battery positive and then you have your ground, but there's a third wire, and this is your switched wire, meaning when you turn the ignition key on, it turns the camera system on. If you didn't have that switched wire, the camera system would always be on because it's connected directly to your battery, and it would run down the battery pretty quickly, probably within 20 minutes. So you have to have this switched wire here so that it turns on and off with your ignition key. Now it sounds more complicated than it is. All you need to do is find a wire somewhere, some component in the bike system that enables or turns on when you turn the key on. So it could be as simple as like your headlight or some other light type source that when you turn the key on, it lights up. That means you've got 12 volts going to there. You just have to figure out which wire is getting 12 volts and then you can splice into that. On this particular bike, I knew I had a switched power wire in these fuel module controllers that I've installed to help richen the fuel system on this bike. I won't get into that. I just knew that I had a power wire going into these, so I just took a T-tap and spliced in to that power wire going to that module. The method I use to tap into that power wire for the accessory wire is one of these T-taps. And these are pretty nifty little things. They make it a fairly foolproof way to splice into a wire. Now I know there's lots of opinions on these kind of splices, but this is the best kind of mechanical fixture I've been able to find that also is very simple to install. I've never had a problem. I've used them on various other projects and never had any sort of electrical issue resulting from them, so I'm very sold on them. You simply just slide the wire in there, you close this with a pair of pliers, and boom, your wire has been spliced into. So I'll put a link in the description of this video so you can see where you can buy these. They're very cool, very nifty thing. You just use one and it makes this a cinch. So now I've got my 3 connections made and this system can get power. All right, let's take a look at how I routed the wires on this bike. So again, the front camera and the remote, I just kind of grouped those 2 wires together and routed them along the frame rail here. You can see they pop out right here. Just use some zip ties about every 8 or so inches just to keep them tight up there so they're not flailing around in the wind. So I just ran those back here, and my theory anyway was to get all the cables to combine at one spot. So I ran the front wires back here, and then I have the rear camera wire coming in right here, and from there I started spooling them around. The last thing you want is a tight bend. You want a very even radius kind of curve for these sort of things because these are digital lines. You don't want to bend them or else they will break and not work right. Obviously, this kit comes with plenty of extra wire. My bike could be 2 feet longer and I'd still be fine. But it's better to have extra wire than too little wire in this case. And then I put the main module assembly up here. I velcroed it to the subframe there just so it's out of the way. While doing this, you want to make sure the wires are clear of any place where the seat goes down. Right here I had to make sure that the seat posts don't fall on any wires. You always want to be test fitting your seats with this sort of thing. Some bikes are going to have more room than others. I found that the best place to kind of wrap this wire around is right here where nothing else is going on. I tried fitting it up in this void up here, but it created too many tight bends that I said, let's not take a chance and let's just keep it out here. So you can see we've got 4 connections here. Each one's different, so you can't screw it up. Here we have the power one going to that switched accessory wire and the battery. Here we have the rear facing camera. Here is the front facing camera, and here is the remote control. I will say that the plastic connectors are extremely difficult to push together and get them to click. I can't even get this front camera wire to click, so I'm gonna have to maybe get some pliers in there to help snap it in. But just know that going into this, they're a little bit stiff. Now, another reason why I mounted this module with Velcro is so that 1, it absorbs vibrations, because as I found out, this is a data logger and I think GPS unit, and the more you can isolate it from vibrations, the better off it's going to be. And secondarily, I want it to be removable in case I need to get that SD card out of there at any point in time. So you always want to think ahead and make it serviceable for yourself in the future. All in, it took me about 2 hours to route all this after I'd gotten all the body work off, so do give yourself enough time. It is not exactly a walk in the park, but it isn't all that difficult either. You just have to think through the best way to route all the wires, make sure there's no binding or stretching. You do want to make sure you have a lot of zip ties and electrical tape just to make it look nice and tidy. One example of that is right here, the battery pigtail. It had a red wire, as you can see a little bit here, a yellow wire and a black wire. I personally cannot stand multicolored bright wiring going everywhere. It looks like a bodge job, so I went through here and used some Tessa wiring tape. It's kind of a matte color, very high quality tape to cover up all that wiring, make it unified, make it look original, so that it doesn't look like some hack job has been in here. So everything's nice and tidy as you can get with all of this kind of wiring. All right, so I haven't actually tried it yet. I'm hoping it'll work. And the way we'll know is just to switch the accessory on with the key, and hopefully something lights up. Let's give it a shot. Well, that's good. Whoa. Lights are good.
Start video recording. Wi-Fi on.
Maybe there's a way to mute that. I don't really want it to do that every time I turn on the bike, but hey, at least it said it started recording. That's pretty cool. I haven't set up my phone app or anything. I haven't even formatted the SD card, which I think is a step I need to do, but it's good to see that these lights have turned on. You can see my fuel modules have turned on, so that's where the switched power is coming from. Doesn't look like there's any lights on the module there. No lights on the cameras themselves. Now the next test is making sure this turns off when I turn the bike off. Nice. There you go. That's why it's important to hook up that accessory wire, that switched power wire, so that you don't run down your battery when the bike is not on. Electrically, everything's set up and looks to be working fine. Now I have to get into the phone app and actually set the thing up. So I figured out how to format the memory card. You're supposed to hold the record button here on the remote for 10 seconds to get it to format. So I'm going to try that.
Start video recording. Wi-Fi on. Stop recording. Formatting memory card. Formatted successfully.
Formatted successfully. Excellent. So it looks like to download the app, you can just go to the app stores and search for Vantrue, or you can scan this QR code. I'll just do the easy thing, go to the app store. Okay, it looks like we need to go back to the bike and turn on the Wi-Fi function. So I think by default the Wi-Fi is already turned on. I think it's that blue light at the bottom.
Start video recording. Wi-Fi on.
This is the Falcon series. That's what F1 stands for.
Wi-Fi is connected.
Whoa, check that out. Look at that. That is the front camera. And that's the back camera. Check it out. So an interesting thing. Hello. So you can see that the top part of the video is cut off because where I've mounted the camera is underneath that grill, which doesn't really bother me that much. It means that I can't see the sky so much maybe when I'm driving, but I think it'll be okay for right now. This is really, really cool actually. Alright, so that is the camera system completely installed. I'm going to put the fairings back on this bike, and then we can go test it out on the road. Alright, so the bike is back together and ready to do a ride to test out this video footage. Now this camera has a ton of functionality in it. It has like a parking mode that can sense if it's been knocked, the bike's been knocked over or someone's trying to steal it. It's got license plate capturing, it's got GPS tracking abilities, it tracks your elevation, the date, time, your speed, all of that. There's so much to mention about this product. It's so fascinating, but what I'm going to be focusing on is really what matters, and that is how it captures video, because that is what you're buying this for. You're buying it to see how the rear camera works, how the front camera works. Can it actually see license plates? Does it have good noise or sound capturing abilities? How's the video quality? All of that. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video. That's really the focus. The remote control on this bike can allow you to turn the sound on and off. It can allow you to turn the power on and off on the fly. That's all nice, but you're never going to actually be messing with that stuff. We're focusing on the video here. I've gone into my phone app settings and turned off all of the voice sounds coming from this because I think they're absolutely annoying. It's constantly talking to you when you're riding. I turned it off. But again, you have 3 buttons here. Here you can turn the camera on and off while you're writing if you ever wanted to do that. Here you can initiate a start and stop recording if you, for whatever reason, ever wanted to do that. I don't know why you'd want to do that since it's constantly recording. That's kind of the point of it. You don't know when you want it to start recording. You just basically always want it to record. And then here you have a button to turn the sound on and off. Those are great features, I'm sure, for someone, but for me, I'm going to leave it all alone and just let the thing work as it does by default. So again, got a remote control there. We've got our camera mounted up in here, and then we've got our rear camera mounted here. I'm just going to take this on the highway, take it on city streets, and just see how it performs. Let's get to it. So there we are. I'm really impressed by this motorcycle dash camera for sure. So let's go over some of the pluses and minuses for this particular Vantrue Falcon 1. So first and foremost, it has really good video quality, at least I think so. It's really clear in daylight, and it's quite good at night as well. Then there's the hardware quality. I'm really impressed by the cameras and the DVR unit. I mean, they just seem like they're built really for the long term, which is great. They have to be pretty sturdy to be on the outside of a motorcycle after all. Then there's the instructions. I think they did a really good job showing you how to get it set up and kind of going through all the nuances of this particular system so you can kind of self-help your way through the process. Then you've got the phone app. It's really nice. It allows you to see videos in real time. So you don't have to take the SD card out to see them. You can download the videos directly from the app by connecting to the DVR unit via Wi-Fi. It's really pretty nifty stuff. And then inside of that app, you've got all kinds of configurations, such as switching to a different language. I think there's a few different languages other than English offered. It also allows you to turn on and off other settings, such as the parking mode, where when you turn the bike off, it'll still have a sensor enabled and be sensing for some sort of movement on the bike, which then will turn the camera on. You know, the camera system is water resistant. It also has a low power cutoff. So, you know, say you had parking mode enabled, it would make sure to not run your bike battery down once it gets below a certain voltage. So it is a very smart system. And generally, it just records a lot of data. I mean, other than your video, it's recording GPS data, recording battery voltage. It's just doing a lot of processing behind the scenes, which, you know, if you need that sort of information, it's got you covered. It also has a 2-in-1 video operation. I just did a quick little test out of that. And I think I'll keep the two video streams, meaning the front and rear camera, separate. I just like having a full video feed for each one. But this one will give you a little smaller file size if you combine the two video streams into one video. And I've also been impressed with how little vibration transmits through the video. I mean, this is not exactly the smoothest motorcycle out there, a BMW Boxer Twin. They are pretty rumbly, especially at lower RPM, and you really couldn't tell that much through the video, so it's pretty impressive. As long as you find a solid place to mount the cameras up, I think you're gonna be just fine. So clearly there's a lot of positives for this motorcycle-specific dash cam. However, there was a couple of frustrating points along the way, some nitpicks I had, and that starts with it just didn't come with an SD card. I know that's probably expected with a lot of electronics these days, but it seemed like that would have been something that would have been included. But yeah, I had to go out and buy my own SD card, which, I mean, it's not a huge deal, but it was just an extra 20 bucks you do have to spend. Next, the SD card slot on the DVR unit itself is very difficult to get into. You have these tiny little Phillips head screws that are super easy to lose. Then you have the cover that's kind of difficult to remove to actually get to your SD card. So luckily you don't need to get to your SD card very much unless you want to load those files directly to your computer. You can download them directly through your phone. I don't know why they didn't decide to just use a clip type cover like a lot of other camera systems I've seen, but yeah, this time I gotta knock them for that. It's not a very user-friendly design there. Next is the remote. I don't actually understand the point of the remote. It's kind of awkwardly designed, and it doesn't really have any functions that I found useful, but perhaps others might, so that might be just me. But yeah, the remote just didn't seem super useful. The voiceover of the camera system, luckily you can turn it off, but that was kind of annoying. And lastly, it's the price of this. Right now, it is a brand new to market system. Obviously, it's very high quality, very well built. It really is the best motorcycle dash cam you can get, but it's pretty steep in price. It's $400 at the moment. 400 USD, that is. So it's not really something you just buy on a whim. You do have to plan for this. So that's a bit unfortunate. However, I do have a link in the description below that'll get you a discount on this particular system, it is worthwhile in my opinion, because if you just think of your insurance premium you pay for your motorcycle, really, what is $400 over the course of a year even? It's the best insurance you can have outside of just your general insurance coverage. So I do recommend you getting a system because it just can cover your butt. You know what they say, you get what you pay for. And I really don't know if there are less expensive options out there, but this is a very high quality system that I can certainly get behind. So that's all I've got for this video. Hopefully it was informative, especially for your motorcycle riders out there that want to have a little extra coverage when you're out riding. These are crazy times. People don't watch out for motorcycles, especially more now than ever with all the texting and all the distractions, driverless cars, all of that. You really need to have something to cover yourself in the worst case scenario. A dash camera like this one is certainly a way to do that. So I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all again next time.